Welcome back. Before we begin, let me ask you something simple, but uncomfortable. What happens when the word divorce stops being a fear and becomes a threat? Sometimes you just know. Sometimes you meet someone and everything feels right, safe, familiar, destined. And other times you wake up one day and realize the person beside you carries every kind of wrong, and you've been ignoring it for far too long. Today's story comes from a man who is completely exhausted. Not angry, not dramatic, just worn down. He's 32 years old. His wife is also 32. And over time, she's turned the word divorce into a weapon, one she reaches for during every argument, every disagreement, every inconvenience. This time, though, something changed. Instead of begging, instead of apologizing, instead of trying to keep the peace at his own expense, he agreed, and he left. Right now, he's staying with his sister, trying to figure out how a marriage can unravel so quietly. They've been together 5 years, married for 4, and their history goes back even further. They share a 4-year-old daughter. He's the primary breadwinner, while his wife is a stay-at-home mom, by her own choice. She hasn't worked or returned to school in over a year and a half. And to be clear, this isn't a story about a checked-out husband. He cooks, he cleans, he shows up. Doctor visits, school events, milestones. The unglamorous, everyday work of being a parent, he's there for all of it. Yet somehow, arguments have become routine. Once or twice a month. Usually over something small. Almost never started by him. So the real question isn't why did he leave? It's how long can someone stay when love starts feeling like emotional blackmail? Stay with us, because what happens next forces a hard conversation about boundaries, manipulation, and the moment someone finally decides they've had enough. The first time she threatened divorce was over something that still stings. His sister was struggling with her own relationship and asked if she could stay with them temporarily. He said yes. His wife was furious. When he pointed out that her friend had stayed with them for 5 weeks just months earlier, doing nothing to help and being essentially a stranger to him and their child, his wife dismissed it. The difference? His sister helped. She cooked, cleaned, watched their daughter when needed. She was supportive and respectful. He thought the issue had passed. It hadn't. Therapy was suggested multiple times. Counseling too. Every time his wife refused. She insisted she wasn't the problem and didn't need help. Then came the argument that broke everything. She accused him of working too much, of abandoning the family, of being a bad father. And, like always, she ended it the same way, asking if he wanted a divorce. This time he didn't freeze. He stood up and told her the truth. The reason he worked so much wasn't avoidance, it was necessity. She wouldn't stop spending. They had agreed on a system, bills, savings, their daughter's future, and personal spending. But she refused to contribute financially, refused to get a job, refused to go to school, and refused to adjust. In the heat of the moment, he referred to the money as his. Not intentionally, but honestly, because he was the only one earning it. He told her he was done. He said his lawyer would send the papers. Then he packed his daughter's essentials and left for his sister's place. For 2 days straight, the calls and messages poured in. Apologies, regret, promises of therapy, claims that she didn't mean it, that she needed him, that she missed him. He's torn. He loves her. She's a good mother. But he can't live under constant emotional blackmail. The community weighed in. One person reminded him that no one online knows his life better than he does, but whatever choice he makes must prioritize his daughter. Another shared a nearly identical story, warning him not to be spiteful during divorce and to avoid dating immediately because it would only fuel false narratives. The common message was clear. You can't make someone happy for them. And you're not responsible for managing someone else's emotional instability. OP responded with clarity. He said he'd make the same decision again. He'd encouraged his wife to get a job, find hobbies, meet friends, do something. He reached out for help, suggested therapy, offered support. She rejected it all, insisting she wasn't the problem. His daughter is his priority. Always. He never fights in front of her. Never raises his voice around her. Because he knows what damage looks like. He grew up in it. He He watched his parents tear each other apart, and he became the emotional casualty. He refuses to repeat that cycle. You can't force someone to get help. They have to want it. Forced change is performative, not real. And while he admits he's not perfect, he refuses to raise his daughter believing that constant threats, manipulation, and emotional volatility are normal parts of love. Then came the update. After deep reflection, he sat his wife down and told her plainly, "This ends now. The fighting, the divorce threats, all of it. If the word divorce was used again, it would be final." She agreed. They started couples therapy. And for a while it worked. Difficult conversations happened. Outside perspectives helped. She applied herself, found a job, made friends, picked up a hobby. For the first time in years, he felt hopeful. Until one argument erased it all. They had plans involving their daughter. Plans she ignored because she'd made arrangements with new co-workers and didn't want to cancel. As the argument cooled, she muttered under her breath, "I knew marrying you was a mistake." That sentence changed everything. He asked her to repeat it. And in that moment, he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him anymore. When someone repeatedly threatens to leave, it's not conflict, it's control. And when a partner refuses accountability while demanding endless patience, the relationship stops being a partnership. Children don't just hear arguments. They absorb patterns. And breaking cycles sometimes means walking away, not because you don't love someone, but because you love your child more. She said it quietly, almost like an afterthought. "I should have divorced you years ago." That sentence didn't spark a fight. It ended everything. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I walked away, packed up, and took my daughter with me. The plans we had that day? I went alone with her, just the two of us. And in that silence, I knew something irreversible had shifted. Not long after, I filed for legal separation. The agreement was clear. We were still legally married, but emotionally separated. No dating. No outside relationships. Finances split cleanly. Bills handled the same way as before. Insurance stayed under my work coverage. Therapy continued, both individual and couples. I moved in with my sister. Custody was shared, 70% with me, 30% with her. It wasn't perfect, but it was supposed to be respectful. One day, I needed her to take our daughter. I told her a full week ahead of time. She agreed. That morning, around 7:30, I pulled into the driveway to drop her off, and something felt off immediately. There was a car I didn't recognize. My first instinct was denial. Maybe a friend. Maybe a girlfriend. Out of courtesy, and because it felt strange unlocking a door that no longer felt like home, I rang the doorbell. I stood there with my daughter, waiting. The door opened. A shirtless guy, maybe 20 years old, stood there, confused. He asked who I was and what I wanted. I asked for my wife. He turned, called her name, and then she appeared, wrapped in a robe. Her face told the whole story before she said a word. Curiosity, shock, horror, then sadness. In that moment, everything became painfully clear. 3 months later, when the legal separation ends, I'll file for a full dissolution of marriage. My daughter is safe. She doesn't fully understand what's happening, only that mommy and daddy aren't happy together. And that's enough for now. She is my priority. Always. I promised myself as a kid that I would never become my parents. Never repeat their mistakes. Never let anger, resentment, or chaos spill onto a child. And yet here I am. I don't know what a truly healthy relationship looks like anymore. But I know what love looks like for my daughter. And that's what I'll give her, every single day. To everyone who supported me, thank you. To those who criticized me, I hear you. Let's see what the community had to say. One person wrote, "That's unbelievably hard. One day your daughter will understand what you did to protect her. I hope you find peace." Another said, "I'm so sorry. You truly did the best you could with what you were given. And trust me, 2 separated but peaceful parents are far better than 2 people staying together in misery." Someone else added something that stuck with me. "You're not like your father. You removed your child from an unhealthy environment. That matters." And they were right about something else too. We can't force people to change. We never truly know someone as deeply as we think we do. We only know the version they choose to show us. I replied honestly. I feel like I never really knew her. I just hope I'm doing right by my daughter. More voices chimed in. A marriage can't survive if only one person is trying. Knowing your self-worth doesn't make you selfish, it makes you responsible. Protecting your child is breaking the cycle. Then someone asked the hardest question of all. Could you have done anything differently? And that question stayed with me. Because here's the truth. Love doesn't survive threats. Respect doesn't grow in fear. And children learn relationships by watching, not listening. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying. It's walking away before the damage becomes permanent. And sometimes, choosing your child means losing the life you thought you'd have. But if it gives them a better one, it's worth it. When I finally decided to confront her, I had to be careful. Not emotionally, legally. I rehearsed every word in my head while waiting for her to come home, rereading the messages again and again, just to make sure I wasn't trapped inside the worst nightmare of my life. I knew the truth, but I couldn't reveal how I knew it. When she walked in, I told her only what I could safely say. I mentioned the hickey, something I pretended I noticed myself. That was a lie, but she had already talked about it in the messages. I told her I knew she was texting someone. At first, Gloria denied everything. She spun story after story, even claiming someone else had given her the hickey. Eventually, I quoted a message directly from her watch. What I expected was guilt. Maybe tears, maybe an apology. Instead, she exploded, pure rage. She accused me of violating her privacy, twisting the situation so aggressively that for a brief moment, she almost made me question reality itself. The gaslighting was relentless. Suddenly, I was the villain. Then she stormed out. She vanished for 3 days. No calls. No texts. No explanation. Despite my anger, I asked her to at least tell me where she was staying so I knew she was safe. To this day, I only know fragments of where she went and what she did. When she finally returned, she claimed she wanted to fix things. She suggested spending time together. It didn't last. I caught her sneaking off to meet him again, this time because she left her watch behind. I watched the messages appear in real time. That was the moment I knew. In February 2020, I told her I had contacted a lawyer. She panicked and insisted she wouldn't sign anything unless we went to couples counseling. I agreed, not because I believed it would work, but because I wanted clarity. The counseling session collapsed almost immediately. When I explained we were there because she had an affair, she argued the word affair was too harsh. She also lied about cheating before Ricky, something I would later uncover on her watch again. She admitted her real plan had been to secretly find an apartment, then hand me divorce papers without ever telling me what was happening. Even worse, she tried to shift blame onto me, using minor disagreements and selectively framed therapist language to paint me as emotionally cold. Examples included things like not yelling at my parents over a Christmas gift she disliked, or not exploding at her parents when they teased her. At that point, the decision was final. I needed a divorce, not because she cheated, but because she would never be honest. We agreed she would move out. I even helped her find an apartment. Anything to speed up the separation. Then March 2020 arrived. COVID shut the world down. Construction on her apartment stopped. Suddenly, she had nowhere to go. From March to June, I was trapped in the same house with the person who betrayed me. For anyone wondering, she knew enough legally to understand that leaving could weaken her position. So she stayed. Those months were hell. Trying to work full-time while sharing space with someone who mocked, minimized, and emotionally drained me was unbearable. We avoided screaming matches, but the tension never left. Imagine spending over 90 days cooking meals, passing in hallways, and seeing no one else on earth but the person who shattered your marriage. I survived by isolating myself, locking into a room for 8 hours a day, then working out or doing yard work just to avoid conversation. She mostly moved out in late June, once things started reopening, and by July all her belongings were gone. She also controlled the narrative. Her family still doesn't know the real reason for the divorce. She didn't even tell them it was happening until after the papers were signed. She forced me to pretend we were still together until then. I never exposed her. Not because I was protecting her, but because her parents never wronged me. I didn't need to spread pain to prove my truth. Ricky and Gloria didn't last. He encouraged her to leave me, but when she tried to return to him after everything collapsed, he walked away. She ended up with no one. We barely speak now, and only when absolutely necessary. Sometimes I wonder if I should have exposed the betrayal publicly. But the truth is, the people who matter already know what happened. I never confronted Ricky. I never confronted Leon. I never confronted the friend who knew everything and chose silence. Instead, I chose something better. I moved forward. I found someone kind, healthy, honest. I never told Gloria about my happiness because it's none of her business. Just like her cheating was none of her family's when it was happening behind my back. The comments had opinions as expected. One said they would have exposed everything, but respected my restraint. Another said staying no contact brings a peace far greater than rubbing success in an ex's face. Karma works best when you don't interfere. Someone else said the quiet part out loud. She wasn't angry at me for discovering the truth. She was angry at herself for getting caught. And then someone asked the real question, not just for me but for everyone watching. Would you have left sooner? Would you have played along longer? Or would you have handled it differently? Let us know in the comments. If stories like this resonate with you, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for dark infidelity stories so you never miss what's next. We'll see you in the next one.